Hey all, Peyton Marine here with another In the Crosshairs. We got another Kill Team article today, and it is over close combat. Now, it's another just tip of the iceberg article. It doesn't go too in depth. There's still a lot of questions that it raises, but it also does kind of explain some of the movement. I think they've seen a lot of the kind of, we'll call it backlash or I guess controversy on this new movement shape thing that people are having. So they kind of addressed it a little bit in this article as well, which we'll talk about some more. But yeah, so very interesting. It's I don't know, it's pretty neat. It's definitely a different way of doing the close combat. And I guess, like I said, we don't. These articles are good, but they're just such a little small taste. They don't give us like the full picture of what this is actually going to end up looking like. So let's just dive in and let's see what we got. Get this article up, and here we go. So close combat is a deadly dance of death in the new Kill Team. All right, opposing teams clash in close combines. I mean, that's your basic opener. Let's get down to the rules here. While melee weapons have many of the same characteristics as their ranged weaponry we took a look at yesterday, the quick and violent nature of close combat means survival is more of a split-second decisions and owned instinct than carefully aimed attacks, rather than the attacker tanking their shots and trying to slip past their target's armor. Both fighters roll their melee attacks simultaneously. Starting with the attacker, the combats then alternate, choosing whether they want to use a successful hit to inflict damage or parry one of their opponent's hits, canceling it out. This means that every fight is a strategic dance of death where powerful attacks are turned aside at the last minute. The heroic soldiers throw themselves on enemy blades to land a desperate low ditch blow. Okay, so they mentioned here you're going to roll simultaneously. So, I mean, that's cool. Again, I had mentioned in my previous video, I think dice trays are going to be pretty imperative. At least they will in my games, just to keep the dice from going all over the place. You can see everything, so you'll have your dice tray, they'll have theirs, and then they'll be sitting right next to each other. You roll at the same time, and then from there, you're going to have to start figuring out how you want to allocate, starting with the attacker. Now, they haven't, and we'll go in the article. The article's not too long, but they don't really go into what the engagement range is. How do you get into combat? Is there any kind of overwatch, and stuff like that? They just go into basically the attacker gets to allocate like their first attacks, and then from there you go back and forth. And they talk. There's no armor saves or any saves in that sense in close combat, but you can parry an attack. So instead of using one of your successful rolls to attack, you can use that to parry one of their attacks. And we'll go into that. There's also other rules that they talk about briefly that may cause you to not be able to parry something, like, and that's something else too, because it's interesting, like, I guess a guardsman could maybe get lucky against a space marine and hit the right angle and use the right leverage or something to just be able to knock an attack off. But really, I mean, I don't know how they could really just come like it, blow to blow and hold like their sword up against the space marine. But anyway, let's dive in a little more. Some cool pictures. All right, so getting embroiled in the melee is especially deadly, as unlike range combat, armor saves won't help you here. In such confines, finding an exposed joint or aiming for a foolishly unprotected head is comparatively easy. The only thing standing between an operative and the whirling blades of a chainsword is their own fighting skill, and that gives true close combat specialists a real moment to shine. All right, so don't worry, fans of power swords and other especially choppy pieces of kit. Your weapons still retain their iconic lethality thanks to the special and critical hit effects. Take the aforementioned power sword, for instance, whose lethal 5+ rule means that you score critical hits at twice the normal rate than the humble bayonet. So they talked about critical hits before, and ranged are on 6s. So it sounds like for this instance, for a power sword, you're getting a critical on a 5 and a 6, so 5+. So And then here, so here we have like the power weapon. Now this is interesting because again we have this SR, which before they had like is it like range, red pentagon, or like with the flamer, it had the torrent white rule and had the range, red pentagon, torrent white circle, right? So I was like, well, maybe this SR means something range, but maybe it just means special rule because here you have lethal +5 or 5+. So I guess the lethal word will be like the new kind of keyword, meaning it is increasing your critical. So attacks 4, you're getting on hitting on a 3+, and damage 4, 6. With 6 there being on 5+, and no mortal wounds over here. At least, again, I'm not sure what the exclamation point is supposed to mean. Like, because if this is special rules, then this is super special rules. You know, I don't know, or special effects, I guess maybe. Oops. All right. So, and then you have the bayonet. So it's 3 attacks, hitting on 4+, damage 2, 3, and there's no other rules to it. Of course, you can't hack your opponent into little pieces if you don't get close enough to them in the first place. So how do we go about that? So now they're going to go over the movement some here, but again, my issue is they don't really ever say how close you have to be into close combat. And then also, and I'll explain, I'm still very confused as to kind of how the movement mechanics work. They haven't really said how it works. Like if your movement phase, you can take up to your full movement characteristic. Initially I had thought, because with like the guardsman, it says 3 and white circle, and I'm thinking, okay, so 3 might mean that they have the ability to move up to 6 inches, but it would take them 3 actions to move 3 white circles. But if you don't have 3 actions, or you only want to use one of them to move, then you can only move 2 inches. Or if you use your 2 actions, and you can move 4 inches, but then you're out of actions or whatever. So I don't know. I'm still, and they don't really explain it, but it almost makes it sound like no matter what, you can still go your full 6 inches as your movement. But then the confusion there is, then why don't they just say that their movement is that red pentagon, which is 6 inches? Why do they denote it as 3 in a white circle? So again, then that brings back that argument of like, this is just 6 inches with extra steps, right? So and I don't know, they try to explain some, like maybe like it's supposed to make it easier for like different effects and stuff to happen, but I don't know, we'll see. So anyway, we've had a few questions about how the movement works in the new edition. Effectively, it has evolved. Distances are now measured using clearly designated gauges, which are broken down into 4 increments: 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 6, each which corresponds to a different shape. Units move in increments of 2, donated by the white circle, and most have either 2 or 3 white circles. Okay, so that also almost makes it seem as if no matter what, the movement will always be a white circle. So that could explain why you have like a 3 white circle for a guardsman, and maybe a space marine, we might see like a 4 or 5, something to that effect, meaning that they can move in their action phase or whatever, their movement phase, they can move their movement, which is up to their full 5. So I guess that's how I'm taking it right now. That's how I'm understanding it. And then with this example here, it says that the new system makes navigating terrain much easier. The cost to climb a ladder or vault a barricade is usually a white circle. So most troops can move 4 inches in total if they clear an obstacle during their turn. Using the nifty gauges, it speeds up everything massively, so there's no need for fiddly measuring for exact vertical distances. So again, I'm going to assume again that that's exactly what that means. So a guardsman will always be able to move 6 inches, or 6 white circles, or 3 white circles rather. But if you're going to clear an obstacle here, you're going to subtract 1 white circle. So then the total movement is 4, to basically say they like went up and over. Yeah, and it's interesting too that to climb a ladder, so to get vertical distance. So depending on how tall that ladder is, that could be a significant distance, and it's only going to cost you one of your little white circles. So basically, you move, you could move 2 inches to the ladder, subtract that, and then 2 inches up. So still 4 inches, but you could be at quite a vertical distance. But also at the same time, that's not going to really, I guess, take huge effect, other than potentially cause a line of sight issue for somebody, because all the ranged weapons have unlimited range. So it's not like you're really going to be like running up high to get just out of the range of something, other than if it's something like a flamer or something like that. But again, they haven't really stated that either, because if you are, up high and you have somebody that's a flamer underneath, but they're still within the 6 inches or the red pentagon range of that flamer, does it hit them even though they are elevated a significant amount above you? So there's a question that I have there that I'm curious how that's going to work out. So distances and kill teams are ultimately still measured in inches, so you're very welcome to stick to your trusted tape measure if you prefer. So the sky is not falling. If you still want to use a tape measure, you can. You don't have to buy these gauges like everyone's, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have also been saying as well, oh, they're just another money grab, oh, you have to go buy all our gauges and tape measures if you want to play again. But again, it's only one, was it 1, 2, 3, and 6? So you can still use your tape measure. They're just trying to come up with something that maybe makes it a little bit easier to go. So who will you throw into the Maelstrom of close combat? Will it be the poor Commando Groot we saw? Let us know on Facebook. Come back next week as we continue to peer in the juicy innards of Kill Team's latest evolution. In fact, speaking of all this close combat, it feels like our guardsmen of Craig are missing something important. Okay, so it sounds like we're not going to get any more articles over the weekend here. It's Friday right now, so it sounds like they're going to be probably taking Saturday, Sunday off. Usually they do like a Sunday pre-order preview. Saturday is usually when pre-orders go up, so I think a lot of the orc stuff is going up. So I think there's going to be some more focus on that, and then come Monday we may get another Kill Team article. And it says here something about, it's kind of like a teaser, something with guardsmen, says missing something important. My guess is they're going to probably show off that the sprues do in fact come with shovels. You can even arm them with shovels, and there's probably some kind of stat or something for the shovel, which would be very interesting. But yeah. All right, well, I guess we will wrap that one up. This one's pretty short and sweet, pretty self-explanatory for the most part. It's very interesting. I do think it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes down. You roll at the same time, and then you basically have to try to cancel each other out. Now, it doesn't really say. Again, I don't know if it'll work the same necessarily as with the shooting. So you have your armor save. So the defender or whatever rolls his dice, or their dice, he, she, whatever, their dice. And then you start to cancel out the attacker's dice. Now, well, no, I guess there is no armor save. So let me rephrase that. It's not an armor save. They're throwing their attack dice and they're throwing theirs. So one, if you have a larger pool of attack dice, you have a better chance of actually getting some stuff through on your opponent who might not have as many attacks as you. So there's that right there. That's kind of a benefit. And then also, I guess a regular attack needs to be canceled by a regular attack. And if there's a critical attack, it doesn't say, but I assume it works the same, that you're going to need to have either a critical attack as well to parry it, or 2 regular attacks to parry critical. I assume that's probably how it's going to work. I don't know why it would work different. That way it kind of just, again, streamlines things to keep everything the same. So yeah, very interesting. I don't really know. I guess that's good, because then you can still, it still gives, it is good, I guess, because I was gonna say, it would be nice to have an armor save still, but at the same time, I guess it's nice to know that if you have something bigger coming down on you, that if they just want to completely crush you, they can throw all their use all their attacks to just demolish you, but know that they're going to probably take a couple wounds on the way as well. So I like that kind of thematic element of kind of like, you think of like an orc coming in just all berserk, just going crazy. And even though this guardsman's about to get smashed to the ground, he gets a couple jabs in with his bayonet or something. It wounds him, loses his life in the process, but still wounds the orc. Or if the orc wants to be, or whoever the attacker is, but in this case, if the orc wants to be a little more conservative and goes in for the attack, the guardsman fights back and he just kind of like hits his attacks aside and then takes him out. So maybe doesn't take him out as effectively, or maybe even leaves him like with a couple wounds. So he's gravely wounded, but not taken out. I like that. There's a good kind of thematic trade-off that you're going to have to decide. Like, you can't just go in knowing that you're going to completely demolish this person without necessarily taking some wounds yourself, which is really cool. I definitely like that more, especially with the way like 40K is, where you could go in close combat and just completely wipe someone out before they can really respond to you. It's kind of the same way with shooting as well, but with this, it sounds like we're going to be having a lot of alternating activation anyway, so kind of helps that out a bit. So all right, well, let me know what you think. What are your favorite parts? What are you thinking? Do you think these are pretty cool rules, especially with the movement thing? Now, does that make a little bit more sense? Does that help more? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings on that and all that? So let me know in the comments below what you think. And again, I greatly appreciate if you'd like to subscribe if you haven't already. And please check out my Instagram and Facebook links in the description below. And until next time.